We have some pretty major news this morning. More Republicans are coming out and publicly breaking from Donald Trump in a way we have not seen since January 20th. I reported last night about Senate Republicans breaking from Trump over Canada tariffs, overturning Canada tariffs. Then the day before, you had Senate Republicans breaking from Trump over Brazil tariffs. And this morning, major Republicans in the House of Representatives are now reaching their, quote, breaking point with the president and his administration over his policy towards Argentina, specifically Argentine beef. Remember, Donald Trump and his administration have bailed out Argentina to the tune of $40 billion. Why? Because Argentina's economy is faltering under current President Javier Milei. And well, Milei is a very close ally of this administration and of this president. And so they're bailing out the Argentine economy in the tune of $40 billion. And part of that also is importing more amounts of Argentine beef. Now, Republicans in farm states are very upset about that because they believe that farmers here in the United States can produce just as good quality beef instead of going to Argentina, with some now saying that the president and his agriculture secretary, Brooke Rollins, should reverse course immediately as they are abandoning and betraying, quote, America First principles. And these aren't just your one-off Republicans. These are folks like Jason Smith, who's one of the most senior Republicans in the House of Representatives, leads the Ways and Means Committee, a very powerful committee in the House. A senator like Cindy Hyde-Smith from Mississippi, who is a close ally of the president's. And it also comes as Donald Trump is heading back from China as we speak, saying that Chuck Schumer and really anyone who criticizes him are, quote, borderline or almost treasonous. That's really where we're at right now, where Republicans are breaking from Trump. Trump is lashing out at those who criticize him, and we don't know whether or not or where this off-ramp is going to be. So Cindy Hyde-Smith, Jason Smith, over a dozen other Republicans in the House and the Senate are criticizing the president. They're saying, don't import beef from Argentina, support our farmers here in the United States instead. Donald Trump, meanwhile, was overseas in China with a high-stakes meeting with President Xi Jinping, where they met in Busan, South Korea, to discuss a whole host of issues from TikTok to trade. They did reach an agreement, according to the president, to end their rare earths dispute, to reduce some tariffs, and resume China's purchases of United States soybeans. But Trump did lash out at Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer on the way home, calling his remarks, quote, almost treasonous, after Chuck Schumer called Trump's Asia trip a, quote, total dud. Now, imagine President Biden or President Obama or even President Bush saying that the leader of the opposing party in the Senate, his remarks are treasonous. That is a stunning statement from the president of the United States. And I've been doing a lot of research into the temperament of past presidents during and before and after crises while in office, or even just during criticism. And there has been no other president that has been as emotional and temper-driven as this president, who lashes out pretty easily on his own Truth Social platform at those he does not agree with. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him lashing out at Republicans who are now actively criticizing him, whether it's over these tariffs or whether it's Argentine beef, or there'll likely be more because we're now in day 30 of a government shutdown. And in just 2 days, SNAP benefits will expire for 42 million Americans. Now, the new trade deal that Donald Trump entered into with China includes a 10% tariff reduction on Chinese goods in exchange for China's pledge to curb fentanyl exports. But analysts are saying that this is a risky move because it essentially weakens America's leverage abroad, strains relationship with allies like Canada and Mexico, and may actually yield few lasting gains if Beijing does not uphold its promises. So we'll see what happens there, but it's a very interesting dynamic. We'll see what happens between the United States and China. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing today or sending a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas to support my independent journalism. Now, overnight, Trump did order the Pentagon to begin nuclear weapons testing to, quote, match Russia and China, breaking with a 3-decade United States moratorium on full tests. The last time the United States tested a nuclear weapon was in Nevada in 1992. He has ordered Pete Hegseth to restart nuclear testing to match these other nuclear powers in what is becoming a Cold War-type nuclear arms race once again. It's interesting how history kind of moves, right? Before, during the Cold War, everyone wanted to ramp up the production of nuclear weapons. Post-Cold War era, A lot of these major nations said, you know what, we're going to reduce nuclear stockpiles. We want to get into agreements where, like the START treaty between Russia and the United States, where we reduce our nuclear arsenal. Why? Because nuclear weapons can wipe off humanity off the face of the earth. Now, in 2025, Russia has just tested a nuclear weapon. China is ramping up its nuclear weapons production to match the United States in just about 5 years, according to the president. Now the United States is testing nuclear weapons once again. So a pretty significant shift happening. And it's interesting that Donald Trump put that tweet out, or that truth out, just minutes before he sat down for a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, because, and he refused to actually, he was asked about it by reporters in the meeting with Xi, and Trump wouldn't answer a question about it. To me, it seems like some type of posturing tactic from the United States president. We'll see whether or not it works, but it's a very interesting dynamic abroad. Today, an exclusive Atlantic report reveals that several senior Trump administration officials, including Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, and Stephen Miller, who is the chief architect behind much of Donald Trump's policies, Deputy Chief of Staff, they've relocated to military bases for security reasons following escalating threats and protests. The unprecedented wave of political appointees moving into military housing has been dubbed an unofficial, quote, Trump green zone, a safe area for Trump administration officials to live without facing threats. But it just underscores rising political polarization and has strained housing availability for senior officials while deepening the administration's isolation from the general public. A new Guardian investigation has found that ICE has been detaining migrants for days or even weeks in secretive holding rooms meant for short-term use, violating its own policies and oversight standards. The report actively details widespread abuses, unsafe conditions, and a dramatic rise in detention times under the Trump administration's expanded immigration crackdown. And 11 Democratic senators are now demanding that ICE halt the use of what are called wrap full-body restraints on deportees, citing secrecy, human rights concerns, and possible misuse that amounts to torture. The letter follows an AP investigation revealing that ICE has used the device for years without transparency or oversight. And finally, an investigation by independent outlet Verska found that Russian commanders have tortured, executed, and deliberately sent to their deaths soldiers who refused to fight in Ukraine, documenting over 100 officers implicated and at least 150 confirmed deaths. The report reveals systematic violence, including drone strikes on retreating troops, and gladiator fights between detainees, all occurring under a culture of impunity protected by an official ban on prosecuting commanders in war zones. That's all the news right now. I will be back this evening for another update, so make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Big things are happening in Washington, D.C., and you will always have the latest right here, right now.
Hey folks, Aaron Parnas here. Thank you so much for watching The Parnas Perspective. Please consider subscribing to support our work as we grow this independent news media entity into something that rivals mainstream every single day. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.